Audio check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8.
and now we're doing another laugh for Carolyn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Bart Gordon. Let's see, I'm that guy on the wall over there, and I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to be the Master of Ceremonies today. And let me give a special welcome to these folks, the family that's here. Eddie Bernice was just talking about how thrilled she was to have her family here and all the grandkids running around, and so thank you all for being here today. We're here to participate in the unveiling of the portrait of a great lady and a distinguished chairman of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, the Honorable Eddie Bernice Johnson, and an outstanding Texan. I had the privilege of serving with Chairman Johnson for many years on the Science Committee, and have always respected her passion and commitment. And I've seen the way that she has helped so many people, both on the Hill and off the Hill. And I want to give you just one quick anecdote about that. Eddie Bernice early on realized that you can't be a great nation if you're not an innovative nation. And you can't be an innovative nation unless all your citizens can participate in that innovation. And she recognized that women and minorities were not participating in STEM education or at the highest level as they should be. And I saw her day in and day out as legislation came through the Science Committee, introduced amendments and legislation that really helped to open up and provide incentives and opportunities for women and minorities to excel. And now if you look over these last 20 years, think about all the STEM programs you see in elementary schools and high schools and colleges. And women and minorities aren't looking through the window. They're on the front seat. And so Eddie Bernice, among many legacies, that is the legacy that I most equate with you. Now, we have a number of distinguished folks here that are going to say nice things about Eddie Bernice, most of which will be true. And we'll get to them shortly. But first, let me introduce Miss Jane Campbell.
Thank you very much, Chairman Gordon. You know, the custom is that you would acknowledge all the dignitaries that are here. I am not going to do that because otherwise we won't get to the main event. So let me just tell you it's an honor to be here. I stand here before you as the president of the United States Capitol Historical Society. Why, you might ask, am I here? Because Congresswoman Johnson made history, and because the Capitol Historical Society is the nonprofit entity that was chartered by Congress in order to tell the story of Congress. And one of the ways we do that is that we work with committees to collect the money to make these portraits available. This is the first time this committee has had a portrait of a woman, of an African American. So there's a whole lot of celebrating going on, but behind it all is the fact that the Capitol Historical Society is presenting this portrait to the Congress as our gift that is only available because of the generous donors who have contributed to make it possible. And so it is my honor to thank you for your service, to thank everyone for being here, and let the show go on.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. And now we have Ms. Alicia Mott West, Special Assistant to the President, who will read a letter from President Biden.
Good afternoon. Dear Chairwoman Johnson, it is with great pride that I congratulate you on the unveiling of your official portrait. For half a century, you have dedicated your life to public service, including 29 years in the U.S. House of Representatives. Your legacy will forever be a shining example to all Americans. Public servants are the lifeblood of our democracy, and throughout your trailblazing career, you have served your community, your state, and our nation with both compassion and joy. You have shown America what it means to be a steadfast champion for civil rights as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus and as the first African American and first woman to serve as chair of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. You worked across the aisle to create science-based solutions for the people. The CHIPS and Science Act, among your other crowning achievements, would not be law without you. Chairwoman, it is my sincerest hope that you can celebrate the great progress you have helped achieve for America and for Texas's 30th District over the course of your career. Congratulations to you, as well as to your family, friends, and loved ones, and to the Portrait Committee on today's dedication. Sincerely, President Joseph R. Biden. And Chairwoman, the President wanted me to make sure to send me off with this today for you. This is a plaque with the CHIPS and Science Act. And his sincerest regrets that he could not be here today. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Ms. Mott West, and thanks to the President. How many of you got letters from President Biden? That's pretty good, Eddie Bernice, pretty good. And now I'd like to introduce Ms. Giselle Martinez to read a letter from the Vice President.
Hi, good afternoon, and Chairwoman Johnson, the Vice President, also sends her regrets that she could not be here, but wanted to share this message with you. She says, "Dear Eddie Bernice, I send you my warmest congratulations on the occasion of the official unveiling of your portrait by the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. This celebration is a fitting recognition of your lifelong dedication to public service as an advocate for human rights, the environment, and democracy throughout our nation and around the world. The courage and conviction you have displayed during your time in Congress has inspired a new generation of public servants. As the first Black woman to chair the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee, you are an example to aspiring young Black women everywhere that their dreams can be realized. This is a historic achievement, and I hope you take tremendous pride in this accomplishment. Doug and I join your family, your friends, and our country in celebrating you today. Thank you for your many years of service. Sincerely, Kamala D. Harris, Vice President."
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Now we're going to hear from the chairman of the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, Senator Maria Cantwell. Welcome home, Maria.
Well, thank you, Bart, and thank you, Eddie Bernice, and thank you to all my House colleagues. It's so great to be here for this very, very important occasion and to have Eddie Bernice's family here as well. I would be remiss if I didn't say to my colleague, Representative Clyburn and Representative Lucas, since we also worked so hard together on this legislation. But we're here today to celebrate Eddie Bernice and the leadership that she's provided to our nation and to make sure that we never forget those contributions. She and I actually came into the House of Representatives together in 1992, the year of the woman. We thought it was great. We had 32 women in the House of Representatives. Today, there's 147. So we're very proud to have been part of that early effort. And we're here, too, to emphasize the importance of Eddie Bernice's contribution to STEM education and to the passage of major legislation in the CHIPS and Science Act. You know, when we were putting this legislation together, part of the challenge was how do we attract more women and people of color into science? And the thing we heard over and over again from the research was you have to get people who look like them to attract them into the field. And when I heard and remembered Eddie Bernice's story, the fact that as a nursing student, She had to travel to a non-segregated state just to receive her nursing education, and then went on to provide the care and the support and the relief, working in the healthcare field and with veterans and in mental health. I thought, this is the person we need to put on a pedestal. So we thought it was very appropriate in the legislation to name a key National Science Foundation program for increasing diversity in STEM, the Eddie Bernice Johnson Includes program. This program will continue to bear your name, to tell your story, to attract the next generation of STEM women, and to be a reminder to our colleagues of all the STEM legislation that you have helped pass, including the Bipartisan Minority Serving Institution STEM Achievement Act and the Bipartisan STEM Opportunity Act. We have to do more. But every time we get tired, we're going to come in this room and look at this portrait, and we're going to say, there was our champion. Thank you, Eddie Bernice. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Campbell. We will now hear from Apollo astronaut and Air Force Lieutenant General Thomas Stafford.
Thank you, Congressman Jordan, Chairwoman Johnson, Minority Leader Lucas, and fellow members of the Congress and friends, staff members. It is indeed an honor for me to be here for the unveiling portrait of a great leader, Eddie Bernice Johnson. I've had the honor of testifying in front of Ms. Johnson for many years in various roles as chief of the astronaut group and a whole series of things that would occur after we had emergencies and how we fix things and advocate for other things. And later as Deputy Chief of Staff of the Air Force, I knew her, and I was Deputy Chief for R&D. And Ms. Johnson has epitomized how the Congress should work. I've seen so much how she works with Ralph Hall, now she works with Frank Lucas. This committee, and with her leadership, shows how bipartisan should work for the future of this great country and work good. And he made so much progress. And I'm glad that after completing 92 orbits around the sun, I'm still able to do a little bit to help. So it's just really great. When I look up at some of the greats, I see some from Texas, like Olin Tiger Teague, Ralph Hall, and many others. So you join some of the greats, Ms. Johnson, and you are one of the greats. The country will benefit from your leadership, but also when you're a leader, you need to choose good people to help you. And I've seen the characteristics in you, Ms. Johnson, when you've chosen people like Dick Overman, Pam Whitney, all this. So you have showed all the great characteristics of a leader, and the country will appreciate it forever. And it's great that your picture is here. Thank you.
Thank you, General Stanford, but for those comments, but more importantly, thank you for your commitment and long service to our country. And now we'll hear from Ranking Member Frank Lucas.
Thank you, Bart. And I would like to exercise a point of privilege to be able to discuss for just a moment my personal relationship with the Chairwoman. She knows, as many of you know, that I affectionately refer to her as EBJ, and that is with the greatest of affection. I came in 1994 in a special election towards the end of the freshman class that Eddie Bernice was elected to. We've been in this body together and we've worked together for a long, long time. After my tenure as chairman of the Ag Committee, I was asked by the folks on my side of the room to come over and be vice chairman of the Science Committee, as EBJ was the ranking member. And the goal, the assignment given to me was to develop the relationships, to refocus the committee in the positive way that it has always traditionally been done. And I spent 2 years as vice chairman with EBJ as chairman. Now, I'm an Okie, I would grant you that. Maybe that's just a little inherent caution from folks south of the Red River, but she spent 2 years sizing me up. We traveled 2 years together. We discussed many things over the course of that 2 years. Remember that train ride from CERN, the Super Collider, down to the ITER project? And all the conversations we had. Now, I won't deny for a moment that when our EBJ's predecessor retired, I was kind of looking forward to being chairman. But lo and behold, fate determined that Eddie Bernice Johnson would be chairman of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. And for the last almost 4 years, with her leadership as chairman, and I'd like to think my helpful support as ranking member, we've accomplished a tremendous amount, EBJ, a tremendous amount. Reauthorizing the Energy Act of 2020 that was incorporated in the final omnibus bill, reauthorizing this session of Congress, the National Science Foundation, NIST, the short-term reauthorization on NASA, all of those kind of things. It could not have been accomplished in what has generally been a long and rancorous period of Congress without EBJ's style, skill, subtlety, understanding, patience, and persistence. I found her to be an amazing ally. I found her to be a great sounding board and one that was very understanding and tolerant of what I had to do because I appreciated the things that she had to do. But you know, I believe a part of that is reflected in one's life experiences. And the first time, you remember when Dick and Mathis and you and I got together for dinner as we were beginning your 4-year term as chairman, and we had a discussion about a lot of things in life. And what has been alluded to here today, you noted about your upbringing in Texas, in the old world, as it was 60 plus years ago, and your willingness to pursue the ability to enhance your skills, to educate yourself, to be able to follow the professions that you wanted to profess. But the thing that amazed me the most, and that meant going to Indiana, coming home afterwards. That's a commitment to making a change. Well, you see, that's the same kind of commitment I've seen with EBJ as we worked through all our stuff in the last 4 years. So let me say in a very personal sort of a way, you've earned every accolade, you've earned every honor. I suspect I will be amazed by the warmth that will come from this portrait shortly. But I'm going to be honest, dear, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you. And when I call you on a regular basis, don't call block me out. You've earned it, my friend, over an entire lifetime. You've earned every bit of it. Thank you for letting me go along as your co-pilot.
Well, Frank, thanks for those really sincere remarks, and that demonstrates why you're going to carry the banner and carry it very well. You know, in 2009, when we thought there was a great recession coming in and was going to bring down, really the economy, Speaker Nancy Pelosi asked some of her chairs to come to her office. And she has a little side office, and she says, I need you to help me. We've got to pass some serious investment for the country. We're in trouble. Jim Oberstar said, well, we need more money in transportation. So she said, well, bring me some legislation on transportation. George Miller says, we need more money in education. Well, bring me some legislation. And it went on like that. And then at the end, she, you know how she can sort of makes a half fist and gets up there and says, there's only one thing I want. Science, science, science. And Steny, you've heard her say that many times in the caucus. So, Madam Speaker, just thank you for your past service, your current service, and your future service.
Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much. Thank you, but I actually said science 4 times. Thank you, Bart Gordon, for your wonderful leadership. He passed the legislation that did so much, our Competes Act. It did so many things, ARPA, so many things, and then we couldn't really get the money until Obama was elected, and then we could match the money with the authorization. But he has been a tremendous leader for science, and so has Eddie Bernice Johnson. It's a privilege to join the celebration for you, Eddie Bernice. You have been such an outstanding member of Congress and just a remarkable chairman of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. Today, you take your rightful place among the nation's great pioneers. I love bragging about Eddie Bernice because she has been so devoted to science, to education for science, for STEM, for all of that. She has built her relationships in the community. She listens to the scientific community, academic community, universities, and the rest. So she knows what the best path is to the future, to keep America #1, but in doing so, so that many more people can participate, and we have our best thinking wherever it exists in our society. Mr. Lucas, I loved what you had, Ranking Member Lucas, thank you for what you had to say, and they working together, a bipartisan arrangement for the science aspect of the CHIPS Act. There were those who said, just do chips, we need chips, chips is national security, chips is this, chips is that. The chips are important right away. But the future is what this committee did. They made a path to the future. The science, that's why it's called Chips and Science legislation. And again, working with Senator Count, Madam Chair, on all of this to have bipartisanship in the House and in the Senate. So she was always been dazzlingly patriotic, a person focused on the 21st century, and respectful of so many views, listening to people, learning from people, advancing the best thinking. She forged a formidable legislative legacy. We all marvel at the respect she commands, as I mentioned, in the scientific community, using her gavel to advance progress for the children. And what wonderful to see your family down, and including of 2 great-grandchildren. That's the best. The capstone, of course, being the CHIPS and Science law. Again, it drives decades of scientific discovery. It's not just the here and now, let's take what we can get. Innovation, recruiting a diverse STEM workforce. And then she was always understanding, in a way that many of us would not, America's brightest minds, because she had her foundation built in. You all know, a proud daughter of Texas, the first Black woman elected to state public office from Dallas. Here on Capitol Hill, she shattered the glass ceiling. I call it the marble ceiling. Both the first African-American and first woman to wield the powerful SST gavel. As we unveil the portrait today, its eternal presence on these walls will make such a difference. Young people who come through, anyone who comes through here will see this woman, a pioneer, a visionary pioneer, gracing the halls of this very important room. And again, calling upon future chairs to live up to your legacy. One time I came to testify here when I was speaker, and speakers usually do not testify, but I was coming to testify for the Competes Act and what we were doing to save the planet and the rest. This is a long time ago. I came in and they were, Mr. Sensenbrenner was on the committee at the time, and he was questioning me about one thing and another, and he's my friend. I loved his wife, Cheryl, and I miss him in the Congress now, on the other side of the aisle. Anyway, what got me was, when I came in here to testify, What did I see on the wall? One of my favorite poets, Alfred Lord Tennyson, is up there on the wall. For I dipped into the future, far as human eye could see, saw the vision of the world and all the wonder that would be. On the wall of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. How powerful that here in this hallowed space, the arts and science converge. What meant a lot to me, because in the time of Tennyson, they were trying to get people, poets, to talk more about science and scientists to speak more in poetic terms. So people on the arts side would understand science, and people on the science side would understand the arts. And here it was on this wall. Here it was in person in Eddie Bernice Johnson. Have long believed, again, that the arts are a force for unity, and so is science. Thank you, Madam Chair, for being who you are, being such a revered figure in our caucus. I hope your family knows. I know how loved you are, and beloved you are in Texas. I want the Texas gathered here, including the former Lieutenant Governor who is here with us. So thank you so much for being with us. And Lucy Baines Johnson representing that great, but a great representation of the state of Texas. Eddie Bernice takes great pride in the state of Texas. She isn't shy about that pride. And a great leader from the Lone Star state of Texas, Madam Chair Eddie Bernice Johnson. Thank you, darling. This isn't mine. I don't want to take somebody else's speech in.
Madam Speaker, thank you for those very gracious words. You know, I've had the good fortune to know all the speakers since Tip O'Neill, and there's no question that Speaker Nancy Pelosi is the most effective. So thank you for what you've done. And Steny Hoyer, I've known all the majority leaders since Jim Wright and Tom Foley. I love you, but they were pretty good, you know. And you're good, very good, too. You're batter up.
Almost all has been said that needs to be said. But as you know, the line goes, everybody hasn't said it. Her accomplishments on specifics have been told by a number. Frank Lucas reflected, and he had a lot of great things to say, but what he reflected was the respect that he had for and the affection that he had for Eddie Bernice Johnson. That just doesn't happen. It happens because Eddie Bernice Johnson is a good human being. She is, as I think all of us know, a quiet human being. She doesn't rant and rave. She doesn't wave her arms. She is effective because she listens, she learns, she understands, and she acts. I've been blessed to be her friend since she came here to the Congress of the United States. I, too, served in the state Senate, so I'm partial to former state senators. And she became my dear friend and a dear supporter. I have an issue that I've talked about, or a program I've talked about, called Make It in America. And it is essentially competes, and it is essentially the science bill and the CHIPS bill, which are going to change America. Both of those bills, Bart Gordon was the leader in the first competes bill. Those bills are going to change America for the better, make us more competitive, create more high-paying jobs for people, and to change the face of our economy. And that's what I'll think about when I come in and look at that picture. What an extraordinary impact this quiet but courageous and extraordinarily able woman has made for her country. You wouldn't know she's from Texas. She's humble, low-key, attributes that you do not necessarily attribute to the Texans you know. But she is powerful because of her personality and her character and her honesty and her insightfulness. Frank Lucas, I thought you spoke so well. And you reflected, I think, what all of us feel about Eddie Bernice Johnson. She's made our lives better. She's made the House better. She's made the country better. God bless you, Eddie Bernice.
Thank you, Stanley. And you are a wonderful majority leader.
Too late.
So let's finish off with this, with the Democratic leadership, and we're fortunate to have Congressman Jim Clyburn. Thank you, Jim. Come on.
Thank you very much, Bart. Thank you, Ben. Good to see you. Lucy, good to see both of you, Madam Speaker, Mr. Leader, other distinguished participants here today. I am also in the class of '92, so I am the guy between Maria Cantrell and Eddie Bernice Johnson. Now, everybody has talked about Eddie Bernice and her history here. Many of you may have read the great poet Robert Frost, who attributed his success to the fact that he had taken the road less traveled. Now, I'm not going to argue with Robert Frost, but I will say this. I have contributed my success to the people that I've met along the roads that I've traveled. And back in 1972, do the math, 50 years ago, I was on the road in Miami, Florida, at the 1972 convention of the National Democratic Party. And the road I was on intersected with the road that Eddie Bernice Johnson was on. And we met. And many of you may recall at the end of that convention, we had a very contentious convention. At the end of that convention, when we nominated George McGovern, our entire party was in disarray. And George McGovern's first work was to appoint a little committee to take a look at our rules and to make recommendations as to what we could do to bring our party back together. It turned out that Eddie Bernice Johnson and yours truly were selected to be on that commission. I have absolutely no idea how I got on the commission. Eddie never told me how she got on. But we became fast friends. And I came here in 1992 in her class 20 years later. And throughout all of that time, we remained friends. And having no idea that we would be classmates here in the Congress together, but that's as it turned out to be. And of course, we got involved in another little contest about who should be president of the freshman class. And as Maria said, we were spending our first year here in the year of the woman. And it turned out that I was in a contest with Eva Clayton, a woman. Now, I ain't stupid. But I called upon the relationships I had built over those years, Ada Bernice, Carrie Meek, and got them to negotiate a little procedure, which ended up with Eva Clayton being president of our class during the Year of the Woman, and I had to settle for being president the second part of that session when it was no longer the Year of the Woman. So Ada, Bernice, and I became fast friends. And as you know, the Congressional Black Caucus takes a lot of pride in the work that we do. And Ada and I work together so often as members of that caucus. And as I listened to Steni's description of Ada, I thought about the great writer Carl Sandburg, who wrote of Abraham Lincoln's leadership. And he said that Lincoln was a leader as hard as steel, yet as soft as a drifting fog. That, to me, is Ada Bernice Johnson.
Well, every year is the year of Jim Clyburn, don't you think? Eddie Bernice is such a draw that we have another celebrity that has come by to say hello. And Akeem Jeffers, Congressman Jeffers from New York, why don't you come up and there we go, and give your greetings.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor and a privilege to be here on behalf of the House Democratic Caucus, which I am privileged to chair, to honor this incredible and amazing woman. You know, when I got to Congress about 5 terms ago, sat in my first CBC meeting, sat on the House floor, one of the incredible things about serving in Congress was the fact that you had the moment to serve with legends. Legends like Speaker Pelosi and Leader Hoyer and Jim Clyburn, and of course our hero, John Lewis. In awe of all of these folks, and of course in awe of Eddie Bernice Johnson, a living legend, part of the continuity of not just the CBC, but what the Congress has traditionally represented. I say often about the Congressional Black Caucus, where I had the opportunity to first get to know Eddie Bernice Johnson and benefit from her mentorship, her spirit, her generosity, her intellect, and her love. That within the CBC, the cast of characters may change, members come and members go, but the character of the cast remains the same. And you can go from a Shirley Chisholm to a Barbara Jordan, and a Barbara Jordan to Eddie Bernice Johnson. Always committed to doing the right thing and improving the livelihood, not just of the people that she represents, but folks all across the nation. I first got to really experience EBJ's spirit when Marcia Fudge, who was the CBC chair, came to Stephen Horsford and myself and said to us that she wanted the two of us to serve as special anchors for the CBC Special Order Hour, which was every Monday the CBC, when their votes on the floor, would speak to the nation about CBC issues. And sometimes we would have great turnout, other times we would struggle to have members present. This was on C-SPAN, it was late at night, it was on Monday, and Stephen and I would talk about whether anyone's watching, and we concluded that, well, we can always count on our mothers and EBJ. And she was there for us every step of the way to encourage us, strengthen us, embolden us to keep going. And she was that way with me, even when it was time for me to think about transitioning from my first term into my second term, and there was a vacancy within the CBC leadership structure for majority or for CBC whip. And I remember EBJ came over to me and said, I think that either you or that other one. You or that other one. She was talking about Stephen Horsford, y'all. Work it out between the two of you, but one of you should be in that lineup, ushering us forward. So I'm just thankful for what you've meant to me, to all of us, to the great state of Texas, and to a grateful nation. Congratulations. We will miss you, but we will love you and always learn the lessons that you've taught us during this time we've been able to travel together. God bless you.
Thank you, Congressman. You know, listening to him, he probably has a pretty good future here, don't you think? And speaking of the Congressional Black Caucus, we have the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, Joyce Beatty. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart Gordon. Thank you, Jane Campbell, Speaker Pelosi. Before I begin my remarks, let me say to my friend and my classmate, Hakeem Jeffries, thank you for that beautiful story, because I have the same story. She said, you know, it's two of them over there, Congresswoman Beatty. But Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, 10 years ago, a decade, you said to me, bring your best to the moment and all that you have, and I will support you. And the rest, history will tell. And today, I stand on your shoulders as the 9th Black woman to chair the powerful Congressional Black Caucus. I thank you, my friend. I had the distinct honor to know of EBJ, as we finally call her, and mainly because we would be too afraid to call her by her first name at any point. So we finally called her. But as a legend, an icon, and a leader in the National Links Incorporated, I knew you there and watched you. And I've seen our national presidents in this room tonight to say thank you for what you have done for so many. We've heard members of Congress talk about what she has done, continues to do for little Black girls. Well, a decade ago, I was one of those little Black girls. I came here in awe of the entire congressional body, but I must say my fondness was for the Congressional Black Caucus. Thinking of you and a Maxine Waters, a Sheila Jackson Lee, a founder, Shirley Chisholm, and so many more. But I had the distinct privilege to take your words at heart. You said, little girl, be strategic and think about everything you do, and there may be a place for you. And we do most things by seniority, and then everything was by seniority. But I figured out a way to pull up a chair to the table. And I sat behind her, and everybody said, no, you remember, pull up. But I was smart enough to know that somebody might just edge their chair over and let this young freshman have a seat next to you. And every Wednesday, I sat next to you for 1 decade. And 2 years ago, you said to me, it is your time. It is your time, and great things will happen. I want to say thank you. Would every member of the Congressional Black Caucus please stand or come out front? We don't do anything alone. Eddie Bernice Johnson taught us that. We don't do anything alone. These are the leaders and the people that you have made. Nelson Mandela said it always seems impossible until it's done. You made it possible. And lastly, let me say, as they continue to stand, she thinks about all people. It was Eddie Bernice Johnson who said, this wonderful nation and America that we live in is better when we have a tri-caucus. And 20-some years ago, it was this woman that created the tri-caucus. And today, we crescendo together, thanks to you, Madam Speaker, and thanks to you. And lastly, she passes the torch. She has decided to leave, but she is passing a torch to another brilliant, bright, articulate Sojourner Truth, Jasmine Crockett. You stand on our shoulders. Thank you. Our power, our message, people over politics. I'm Joyce Beatty, and I approve this message. I love you.
Amen. Thank you, Chairman Beatty. You know, 12 years ago, they had an event for me, and a few folks said nice things, and my wife said, well, do you ever get tired of hearing people say nice things about you? I said, no. But Eddie Bernice, we're maybe getting to the limit here. I mean, how much can you take? Also, I understand that Lloyd Doggett came in. I want to recognize Lloyd. He's the chairman of the dean of the Texas delegation. Yeah, thank you, Lloyd. And speaking of Texas, Lucy Baines Johnson, we'd like to hear some words from you.
Wow, 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 wow. Today is my mother and father's wedding anniversary. And I can think of no greater gift that they could ever receive than the leadership of Eddie Bernice Johnson. Eddie Bernice Johnson, to know her is to love her, and generations of Johnsons do. Eddie Bernice, Linda, and I believe you are our father's dream come true. And Linda would have given everything to have been here with you this afternoon, but as you know, she was in a tragic house fire last Christmas, and she is making great progress, but then COVID got in the way. So she did not want to bring that best to you on this big day, but she sends her love and deepest respect always. Daddy believed in the talents of women and people who have supported our country, yet endured years of racial discrimination. He believed that public service was not only a noble profession, but its highest calling. He believed in the right for everyone to have decent health care and education, civil rights, and voting rights. You, Eddie Bernice, not only share those beliefs, but you personify them. Everyone needs someone to believe in. Since 1972, I have believed in you. As a Georgetown nursing student in 1965, I began my lifelong love affair with your first profession, nursing. I went on to serve on the Board of Visitors of Georgetown and chaired the BOV of the University of Texas at Austin's nursing school. When you were elected to the Texas legislature in 1972, you became my hero and that of nurses everywhere. You pursued higher education in nursing and have advocated for the right and the opportunities for others to do the same. Your service in the House of Representatives, and especially as chair of the Science Committee, has given nursing a critically important voice at the table for science. This past July, I had the honor of a lifetime sharing a stage with you at the Texas Democratic Convention when the entire auditorium gave you a well-deserved standing ovation. It meant the world to me to hear you praise my father, and I quote, "the Democratic president responsible for equal education, open housing, Medicare, Medicaid, voting rights, civil rights." And then you went on to say, "there has been no greater president." You share my father's last name, his political party, all but one initial, his home state, his belief in public service. Your selfless service has kept his dream for social justice not only alive, but thriving. No member of the Congress could be a greater tribute to all my father tried to do. You said at the Texas Democratic State Convention that you were retiring from the Congress, but not from the Democratic Party. As a grandmother of 14, I am so grateful to hear your wisdom will continue to enlighten and guide us. It is just that you now have time to enjoy your family. But it is justice that your portrait will now hang in the House Committee of Science. Your portrait will inspire generations to continue the fight against injustice, so we will one day surely overcome. I started off saying that today was my mother and father's wedding anniversary, but I want to let you know, Eddie Bernice Johnson, that I think I am not alone, that I think every person who is here will look back years from now, just as I look at my parents' wedding anniversary, and say, I was there. I was in this room when this great woman and this extraordinary hero was acknowledged for her unequaled contribution to Congress. And I got to be there. I got to listen to all the great leaders of my time, and I got to say thank you to Eddie Bernice Johnson.
I need another amen. You know, I think this has turned out to be the day of the ladies here. And so now, if you'll turn your attention, please, we're going to see on the screen recording remarks from NASA Administrator Bill Nelson and from the president of the UT Southwest Medical Center, Dr. Daniel Podolsky.
Hi, I'm Bill Nelson, and I'm the president of the Eddie Bernice Johnson Fan Club. Eddie Bernice, I wish I could be there for the portrait unveiling ceremony that you all are having. Chairwoman Johnson, she's been a great friend over the years in our public service together in the Congress. She's served in public office for 40 years. She's broken barriers every step of the way, and I had the privilege to serve with her in many of those years. And now, it's been great serving with you as the chairwoman. From our perspective over here at NASA, you really have been helping NASA usher in a new era of space exploration. Eddie Bernice, your partnership in passing the NASA authorization bill way back 12 years ago in 2010, it set us on a pathway for commercial space as well as government space. And we're doing that as we return to the moon and then we journey all the way out to Mars. This legacy will pave the way for further human exploration of our solar system. So I'm grateful to you, Eddie Bernice, for your dedication to NASA's success and your leadership to inspire the next generation of explorers. Go, Eddie Bernice.
I'm Dr. Daniel Podolsky, president of UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, and I'm delighted to have this opportunity to both thank and congratulate Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson for her 40 years of service and the legacy she leaves that has improved the lives of those who live here in North Texas and across the country. For those who don't know UT Southwestern, it was established as a small private medical college in 1943, but in 1949 became part of the University of Texas system, and since that time has been at the vanguard of biomedical research in conjunction with its mission to educate and train the next generation and provide clinical care to all those in need. As our representative, Congresswoman Johnson has been a vital partner in advancing UT Southwestern and our ability to deliver on the needs of her constituents. A significant way in which that impact is felt is through her leadership and advocacy for legislation which has expanded access to care for communities across North Texas and around the country. This includes the Affordable Care Act and also the incorporation into the 21st Century's Cures Act of access to psychiatric care so badly needed in our community. Her impact on our campus has also been felt by her advocacy for research and supporting funding for the National Institutes of Health and some very specific support for key programs on our campus, including a sickle cell research center, imaging, and very recently, the launch of our new Peter O'Donnell Jr. School of Public Health. So her imprint on this campus through her support of legislation has been indelible. She has been truly an inspiration in the public service that she has provided and the countless ways in which she has improved the lives of those in her district and across the country. Never did I feel that inspiration more than in listening to her address our graduating medical school class in this past June, in which she challenged them to lead a life of purpose and accomplishments, which she has exemplified through her congressional career. Again, I am deeply grateful for all that she has done for UT Southwestern, for the people we serve, and I am grateful to have this opportunity to thank and congratulate Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson.
Well, in addition to Lloyd, earlier I see Zoe and Jerry and Bill and Paul, all the members of Congress, raise your hand so Eddie Bernice can see. Yeah, there we go. A lot of your colleagues are here to say hello. And Eddie Bernice, I hate to say this, but there really are no great chairmen. There are great staffs that make great chairmen. So everybody that's a part of, where's Marut, and the rest of, and Dick, please raise your hand if you're a part of Eddie's staff, please. You know, her work is your work, so your legacy comes together. And so now, Mr. Ross Perot, we're glad that you can be with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bart. Thank you. Eddie Bernice, thank you very much. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what she's done for Texas and for Dallas. We loaned you to Washington for about 30 years, and we are glad to get you home. And if you look at what she's done for our community over the past 30 years, it's been extraordinarily impressive. She's got uncommon strength and courage and determination. And the Dallas we have today is because of your work. And you have dedicated yourself to our nation and our state, but especially Dallas. And the reason we have the prosperity in Dallas we have, the reason people are moving in like they are, is because you're focused on our schools. We saw the help at the medical school. You focused on our roads, our railroads. We have the Dallas Independent School District has the A. Bernice Johnson STEM Academy named after you. We have Union Pacific Rail Station named Eddie Bernice after you. And I'm sure there are more naming rights coming, Eddie Bernice, once we get you home. But something special for a Dallasite is that she worked on the Wright Amendment. And she's the one that freed Love Field to become a great commercial airport, which brought more great prosperity into our market. And that airport had been shut down for years. And Eddie Bernice, thank you for that leadership. We are glad to get you home, and you've had a long relationship with my father. As I told you earlier, if he was alive, he would be here today to thank you for what you've done for this great nation. And I guarantee you, he would have made the donation we made to help on this portrait. And so I feel like we are continuing his work, and we're strengthening that relationship between my father and you. So thank you for your dedication. You've made this nation better. You've made our state better, and you certainly have made Dallas-Fort Worth a much stronger region. God bless you. Welcome home. We're glad to get you back.
Not through yet. Ross, my grandfather used to tell me that every time the grand jury met in Tennessee, the population of Texas increased. And so, and some of my relatives went there too. So now that we're on the Texas theme, I'm very pleased to present the Honorable Ben Barnes and Lyndon Boozer.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the committee and Lyndon Boozer, my co-chairman, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, and I want to particularly thank those of you that participated and made this portrait possible. And on this rather cool afternoon in November, I'm going to repeat what's already been said today, but I want all of it to really soak in on everyone here. This is a very significant day in the history of the United States Capitol. First of all, one of the greatest speakers of the House that's ever lived and that's ever presided over this House made her plans known for the future on this day. That's a very important, historical, significant day. And thank you, Madam Speaker, for what you did, what you've done. But also this day, we are all present at the unveiling and the hanging of the first woman chairman, black chairman, that's ever served in the United States Capitol and will ever have her, and it will be the first portrait that will ever hang on any wall in the history of this country in 300 years. And isn't that a significant thing for those two things to happen? And if the Johnson family now would please move over and unveil the portrait, I want to see what this great artist has done.
in case you couldn't have heard her, that was Kennedy Winter Johnson and Elizabeth Rose Johnson who did the honors there. So that's a beautiful portrait and certainly an improvement to the walls here. Okay, so Eddie Bernice, it's your turn, and then we're going to ask everybody to stand aside and let the Johnson family get together and have some photographs. So this is your time for rebuttal.
Here we go. This is Eddie Bernice.
Let me thank everyone who has come today, and I see one of my dear and longtime friends just coming in. I knew she'd be a little bit late, but I'm delighted that you have come. From a long-time legendary family of Dallas, Texas, H.L. Hunt's son, Ray, and that family has been very supportive. And Swanee, I think, is the youngest one, has been my partner in peace for the last 20-some years. I think it started in 2000, whenever that happened, 9/11. And she has been an outstanding world leader in helping from Harvard, helping people, women especially throughout the world, to learn to be world leaders. The first 2 women elected presidents of that country were graduates of her program. So thank you, Swanee, for being here. I could name names all the rest of this 1 hour and a half I'm going to speak. But let me just simply say, I'm overwhelmed, and I want to thank all of you for being here. There's not a single person that I could have made it without. So when I think of the opportunities and the challenges of which I've had, I am so grateful to all of you. I also want you to know that I did pass a bill to honor the hidden figures. And since that bill passed, 3 of them have passed, but the one left is here. So would you stand and wave to let everybody know? I really wanted, all of us know our history in this country, and I'm a proud American. But I also wanted the young black women and females of all ages to know that this is a nation that welcomes you. This is a nation that you can produce. This is a nation you can be proud of. It's a nation of challenges, but none of those challenges are challenges we cannot meet. And so I wanted every black girl to know other black girls who've made major contributions. And so that's why it was important to me today that one of the voices and one of the brains that helped us enter into space is sitting here with us today. I'm not going to say everything that's on my mind. I just simply cannot do it. But what I can say to you, it was said earlier, nothing any of us achieve here is done without a staff. Some good and some not so good. Some stay and some get invitations to leave. But through it all, we cannot do without staff. So let me acknowledge that the staff of the Science Committee is some of the best. The ones that are not the best don't last quite so long. The leadership is superb, and I want to thank every one of them for what we've been able to achieve. On my personal staff, I've had some of the same people for so long until they're so accustomed to me that no matter what I say, they keep coming back. But I want to say, it was said earlier, very little you can do here without staff and without staff who is not watching the clock. I'm really a night person. So when I ding their phones at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I really don't expect the response right then, but what I don't want to forget to do it. So I do it when I can, and they can respond to me at 8 or 9 o'clock the next morning. Some respond to me at the same time, which I really don't expect, which they know that. But I want to tell you that every step of the way here, there has been staff to help me every step of the way. So anybody who's ever been on my payroll, just raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You are appreciated. You're very much appreciated. Now I'm going to tell you something about my ranking member. Mr. Lucas, we have worked together, we've traveled together, we've seen lots of things together. And when I was named chair, I said, let's have some bread breaking together. And he said to me, I'm just an old country farmer from Oklahoma. Well, if you believe that, as it was said, you would be cheating yourself. But we have this agreement. If I call him at 10 o'clock at night, you know, farmers go to bed early sometime. He'll say, I say, whenever you get this, just respond. It doesn't make a difference what time of day or night. And he will. But I can tell you this. I couldn't have had a better partner on this committee. And when we talk about we've had some challenges, but we have overcome most of those challenges because the two of us were committed to science for this nation. And whenever there was a question, we always said, we want the science to prevail. We want everybody to think whatever they want to think, but respect science. Research is what got us to where we are, and that's what will carry us into the future. And so I want to thank you publicly how much I appreciate your partnership. And every other Republican that's been on this committee. We've experienced what I consider a record-breaking working together. And I appreciate that very much. And let me just tell you the happy thing about today. And you know, I'm just talking, and my staff don't like that. They give me notes. And I'm going to stop soon. But I look around, I just think of so many things that I'd like to say. When I see young people come here, it's sometimes easy to see talent, to see wholesomeness, to see ability to lead. And I can't help but try to encourage them because no single person here is everything. No single person here can do anything without somebody else. It is not the talking that does it. It is the way they carry themselves and the knowledge that they possess and the respect they have for others. Hakeem Jeffries is my future leader. And I want everybody who's listening who has a vote to remember that he is the one would like to see in leadership now that our speaker is stepping aside. we've had tremendous leadership since I've been here, and I don't know how they've all been able to do it, but they've done it, and I appreciate it. But I do think it's time to add a little color. Not just because it's color, but because the ability, the talent, and leadership is present. It's not color that makes the much difference. It is what is a part of that. And so I haven't gone wrong, really. I've chosen a lot of folk around here to push, and they've not made me shame. So I want to thank all of them for being leaders in unselfish ways. I can't go on without commenting on the Congressional Black Caucus. As much as we'd like not to have one, we all know that there are issues that we have to work out among ourselves. And so that has been a group that has grown in numbers and value. And the more we listen and the more we work with others, the stronger we become. I'm grateful for the leadership from the beginning to now. And I think of those role models that were here when I came, like John Conyers, Charlie Rangel, Bill Clay. And we have some of those same talents present today. And the need for that leadership is not diminishing. And so let me just say about this committee. When I came onto this committee, there were two women, Connie Morella, who was a Republican, and Eddie Bernice Johnson, a Democrat. And we put our heads together. And we decided that we had to make a difference. We had to make a way for women to be recognized and to take on leadership roles in science, not because they were women, but because we needed the brain power, and because we need more and more and more brain power in the STEM areas to keep up with the rest of the world and lead. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Appreciate you having come. You know all my friends. And I'm not going to go on. I'm simply going to say, wait a minute. Let me go back a second. You know, raising money has never been anything that I loved, mainly because I didn't have it and didn't figure I could ever get it. But I've had people I could call on over the years. And this time, when I wasn't sure where we were going to get enough, it takes a lot of money to do this portrait stuff. My staff person in the district office, DeMarcus' office, stand up, DeMarcus. Said, let me see if I can touch base with just a few people. I said, you're not supposed to be in that part of it. He said, I'm not going to get to be a part of it. I just want to see if I can touch. And so he did touch. And I'm grateful, because that is what helped us to bring in some of the money. And so I want you, DeMarcus, to get up and identify the people that you touched, who then touched others for us. Yeah, come on, you can come up.
This is okay, this is cool. So, Lynn, if you can come forward, Lynn McBee, could you come forward, please, and Mr. Sean Williams as well. Lynn McBee, who's a philanthropist in Dallas, who also is the president and CEO of the Girls Network in Dallas. as well as Sean, who's the Vice President of Alamedia, helped us raise the funds from a Dallas standpoint. And that's how we were then able to get in contact with Mr. Perot, who also contributed as well. Please stand, Mr. Perot. And I want to make sure that we recognize Sean and Lynn, as well as Mr. Perot and others who gave, because without them, this wouldn't be possible. And that's also as well as, Marat, the Chief of Staff, who's here. I don't know where he's at. Marat. And the entire DC staff, Tara, appreciate you guys. But I want to make sure we recognize Lynn and Sean and Mr. Perot for contributing and making sure Congresswoman's portrait was a success.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not a native Dallasite. I'm from Waco, Texas. But I've been in Dallas a lot longer than I was in Waco. And I call it my home. And I'm very proud to be a Dallasite. We have a wonderful community. We have a lot of rich people there. But none of them are people that are willing to sit back and let things just happen. And I'm grateful for that. So some of our greatest leaders have made for a great, great city. And I'm so grateful for it. And I appreciate all of them. I don't even ask them their party affiliation, because to me that's not important. It's their dedication to the city. When Dr. Pekowski mentioned a public hospital system, it was a number of years ago that I got invited to a dinner at the mansion with Ross Perot Sr., and I walked in and was shocked. There was about 3 different white men there and me. But all of them had money. I didn't have any, but they asked me what I thought about a new Parkland hospital. And I realized how dedicated these people of real means were to come together to talk about raising money to have a new public hospital for people in need. I was struck by that dedication, and I really have appreciated the leadership of our well-known families that, I don't even know I can't even imagine what it's like to be a billionaire, even a millionaire for that matter. But to see people willing to use their means to better a city and a state, which is part of a nation, I will be forever grateful. And so I want to express my appreciation for the leadership that we have in Dallas, who have given lots of time and money to make us the #1 city of this nation. Now, if you don't believe we're #1, just keep listening. Well, we do have a young man that's younger than my son that is now the mayor of the city of Dallas, who worries me all the time. But it's a good worry, because he is dedicated to keeping our city safe and prosperous. And so I want to express my appreciation to you, Mayor Johnson. And do you want to have a word or two? Okay. So happy that you're here. I want to appreciate every older leader, but I also want to appreciate these young leaders who are coming along to dedicate themselves, because we need this talent to carry on. And you don't have an excuse for not doing what you can. If I can come along and do it, you can come along and do it. If my parents could come along under circumstances where we were, but they were constantly pushing and not allowing you to be lazy about what you have to take on the responsibility for, then every other person should be able to pass that same message along. So I know it's a little reception next door. I want you to enjoy it. Again, I thank you. I cannot tell you what this day has been to me. Just to see all of you taking time to come, my family and all of the people that I have kept their hands close to mine so that I could keep going and keep focused, and really so many days wish I could do so much more than what I've done. But I'm not going to give up yet. We're going to keep working together, because working together, we get beautiful results. We've come a long ways. We've got a ways to go. But one thing this job has taught me, this is the greatest nation in the world. That's my youngest great-grandson. Thank you again. I don't know if there's anything else I'm supposed to do. Hold on.
I'm going to have to be a little bossy here. The Johnson family has got an obligation elsewhere. So what I'm going to do is ask, I know you all want to come up and hug and say hello, but let the Johnson family get over, get a portrait, and then you can have your shot at the chair. And just down the hall at room 325, there will be a reception. And Chair Johnson, you mentioned the word pride many times, and we're proud of you.
The person who did the portrait is also present.
Senator Shawanza and Rima
You did a good job.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks for putting it all together.
Glad to be with you.
Lisa, Carol. Yeah.
We're not going to tell her.
No, I was like, Shawanza, Rima, I was like, come on, I don't know Lisa by the longest. Thank y'all for being here.
This was amazing. This is amazing to be here.
Incredible impression.
It feels like today, just like, once the election was over, it's like, a little like, Congress is so different next year.
It's really different. You all know,
It's just,
I'm trying to have, but you know, it's really smart. He made me laugh out of my son. He was like, real close. He's like,